Welcome in. Today we're going to do another quick LP Revisited video. Today we're looking at the second LP from the band called the Llamas. The album, which was originally released in 1994, is called Gideon Gaye. The Llamas were originally formed as a four-piece band by Sean O'Hagan after his previous band, Micro Disney, had broken up, and I think while he was still a contributing member in the band Stereolab. They released their first album in 1992, and since 1992 have released a total of 11 LPs, including one earlier this year, which is titled Hey Panda, which is out on Drag City Records. They've been considered kind of an innovative contributor to like modern avant pop, chamber pop, certainly art pop, heavily influenced by most, like glaringly, the Beach Boys, but also bands like the Left Bank, Van Dyke Parks, but also electronic krautrock music, exotica, library music, that kind of thing. Being part of Stereolab, you kind of see the commonalities between Llamas and coming from Stereolab.
The Dutchman was dressed to impress, walking through streets that were laid with distress.
So today we're going to talk about their second LP, again released in 1994, titled Gideon Gaye. I do remember Chris over at Dixieland Farm talked about this album in a video a number of years ago. So in this case, I'm not talking about an album without somebody else also being a fan. I will link to his video in I think in the pinned comments or in the description box below. He speaks much more eloquently about this than I'm about to. And I haven't rewatched it, but as I recall, I think that he is even higher on this album than I am. And then speaking of links, as long as I'm leaving links, if you want to see me talk about the follow-up to this LP, which is titled Hawaii, which was originally released in 1996, I will link to a video where I talk about that album briefly as well, show the vinyl. Notably, that is also the first video where I start rambling about Meat Stick. So it's worth it just for that. Anyway, back to Gideon Gaye. This was recorded on a real like shoestring budget. I think just several £1,000s. Then it was released on a small label out of Brighton called Target. For years, this was a very difficult album to get in any form in the United States. I can remember really trying to get this, trying to order it. I imagine it was easier to attain in Europe than it was in the United States, but I don't really know. I do know for sure that in the UK, this album was met with critical acclaim and even charted, modestly, albeit, but charted at number 94 on the UK album charts. Sean O'Hagan has cited Brian Wilson specifically, John Cale, and Van Dyke Parks as significant influences on this album. The album cover is an homage or a take or tribute to the 1967 Van Dyke Parks LP song cycle. I think this is generally on a critical level considered to be the Llamas' best LP. This is a much more focused effort than the 1996 album that followed it, called Hawaii. And the album Santa Barbara that came before this, their debut LP, is a much different style. This is really the beginning, probably, of what you would consider the Llamas' signature, sound.
The dumbest thing I've ever heard. Checking in and checking out. Sunset. People keep their yachts close at hand.
So just some of my thoughts. I actually am more partial to the 1996 album Hawaii personally. but I can definitely 100% see, because that is a sprawling, much longer album, probably more opaque, difficult to get into. I still think this is an excellent album, really excellent. For some people, though, I think it can take a bit of a period of adjustment to get into the High Llamas in general, and also just this album specifically. If you don't like the Beach Boys, like if you don't like the Beach Boys at all, you're gonna probably hate this album. If you listen to like Smile bootlegs and just completely didn't get it, you're probably, not gonna find anything interesting here either. And while I was saying like this is a more focused album than Hawaii, I keep making these comparisons, they were released fairly close to each other. I still think this album can drift off in tangents that I think might turn some people off, where they might like some of the songs, but then find the album as a whole to kind of meander a bit. And that, again, would probably be doubly the case with the album Hawaii. Some of the highlights on this record, I think the single Checking In, Checking Out is a terrific pop song. Just a delightful pop song. Then some other songs, The Dutchman, the song Gideon Gaye, Up in the Hills, and The Goat Looks On, all excellent. But I do really enjoy the album as a whole. It is interesting that they kind of had a small window of minor commercial success in the UK, but in the United States, basically zero. I think if you asked somebody on the street if they knew what the High Llamas were, they would maybe guess it's a dispensary or something. I will say that I was lucky enough to see the High Llamas, not for this album, but the following album in 1996. And I will say it was very memorable. I think it was a very memorable, excellent performance. I still feel very lucky that I was able to see them, at that time. Anyway, the High Llamas, Gideon Gaye. Let me know what you think, and thanks for watching. Cheers.
A sudden wind